My name is Claire, and I'm 30-year-old. Something in me stopped a while ago, and I've been living beside it like a piece of furniture no one remembers why we own. I still wake up, still make coffee, still answer messages, but it feels like I'm borrowing a body that doesn't quite belong to me anymore. I move through my days carefully, the way you move through a room where something broke, but you never cleaned it up. You just learn where not to step. People think grief is loud. They think it announces itself. Mine didn't. It settled. It became the air. It became how I breathed without noticing I was doing it differently. There was no moment when everything collapsed in front of others. There was just a slow rearranging inside me, a quiet removal of things I used to reach for without thinking. I still go to the grocery store. I still stand in line. I still choose apples and bread like I always did. I still smile at strangers because it's easier than not smiling. Life didn't pause for what happened to me. That was the first thing that hurt. How easily the world kept its rhythm while mine was changing shape into something smaller and harder. Some nights I sit on the edge of the bed and try to remember how my voice used to sound when it wasn't careful, when it wasn't weighed down by what it carried. I can't always remember. Sometimes I wonder if I'm imagining that version of myself, or if she was real and just didn't last very long. Before everything fractured, my life was quiet in an ordinary way, not exciting, not tragic, just steady. I thought that was what safety looked like. I thought love was supposed to be predictable. I married a man who felt familiar, who fit into my routines like he had always been there. We folded laundry together. We argued about what to watch. We planned dinners for the week and forgot half the ingredients. We knew how each other took coffee. We knew when to give space. It didn't feel fragile. It felt fixed. My sister was always part of that picture. She had been part of my life long before he was. We grew up sharing a room, then secrets, then clothes, then silence. There was nothing dramatic about our bond. It was assumed. She was just there like a second shadow. When I brought him home the first time, I watched the way she looked at him and told myself it was nothing. She was curious. She was protective. She was being a sister. I didn't know yet how often I would use that phrase to explain away things that made my stomach feel tight. In the beginning, everything felt aligned. Family dinners, holidays, birthdays, small traditions forming without effort. I liked that my life had shape. I liked that it was visible. I liked that it made sense when I told people about it. A husband, a sister who lived nearby, a normal job, a normal future. I thought normal meant safe. The erosion didn't start with anything I could point to. There was no obvious moment when something went wrong. It was a collection of almosts, almost noticing, almost asking, almost admitting that something felt off. I would catch a look between them that lasted a second too long. I would notice how quickly my sister answered when I mentioned his name, how her voice changed in ways I couldn't describe without sounding suspicious. I would notice how he became more alert around her, more present, as if the room sharpened when she entered. I told myself I was imagining it. I told myself I was tired. I told myself I was turning into someone who looked for problems because life was too quiet. I learned how to swallow questions before they formed. I learned how to turn discomfort into politeness. I learned how to protect everyone from my own thoughts. by pretending they didn't exist. Silence became a habit, not because I was kind, but because I was afraid of being wrong, afraid of being the one who disrupted something that might still be intact. I had more faith in their innocence than in my instincts. That should have been my first clue. There were moments I almost spoke, moments when my heart beat faster and my mouth opened, and nothing came out. I didn't want to be the woman who accused. I didn't want to be the woman who misread love as danger. I didn't want to be the woman who couldn't trust the two people she loved most in the world. So I became the woman who trusted, even when it hurt. The strange part is how quickly doubt turns inward. I didn't question them. I questioned myself. I wondered if I was jealous, if I was insecure, if I was projecting something broken inside me onto something that was actually fine. I searched for flaws in my own thinking before I allowed myself to consider flaws in their behavior. It felt safer to blame myself than to imagine they could both betray me. I started shrinking in small ways. I spoke less. I listened more. I paid attention to what I said around them, as if I was a guest in my own life. I stopped sharing certain thoughts, stopped bringing up things that made me feel exposed. It wasn't a decision. It was a drift. Sometimes I would watch them talk and feel like I was watching something I wasn't meant to interrupt. Their laughter had a softness that didn't include me. Their pauses felt loaded with something I couldn't reach. I stood nearby and told myself this was what family looked like, that closeness wasn't a threat, that intimacy didn't always belong to me. Love didn't leave all at once. It thinned, it stretched. It became something I held carefully so it wouldn't tear. I told myself all marriages went through quiet seasons, that distance didn't always mean danger, that discomfort wasn't evidence. I wanted explanations that kept my world intact. So I chose the ones that required the least change. The day I knew wasn't loud. There was no scene, no raised voices, no confrontation. It was an afternoon like any other. The house was still. I picked up his phone to check the time because mine was in another room. It vibrated in my hand. A message appeared. Her name. A sentence that didn't belong between siblings. Not even close. I didn't drop the phone. I didn't gasp. I just stood there and read it again and again, like the words might rearrange themselves into something innocent if I gave them enough chances. They didn't. They stayed exactly as they were, quiet, certain, final. My body went very still. It was like all the noise inside me shut off at once. No panic, no anger, just a sudden understanding that something I had been protecting for a long time no longer existed. The effort was over. The truth didn't need my permission anymore. I remember noticing how normal the room looked. The light through the window, the dust on the table, the sound of a car passing outside. It felt strange that the world hadn't changed shape to match what I had just learned. I thought something should have broken, something visible, something loud, but everything stayed in place. I didn't call anyone. I didn't cry right away. I sat down and held the phone in my lap like it weighed more than it did. My mind kept returning to all the moments I had silenced myself, all the times I had chosen comfort over clarity. I wasn't angry at them yet. I was tired of myself. What hurt most wasn't the affair. It was the agreement between them to let me live beside it, to let me share meals and holidays and conversations while carrying a truth that wasn't offered to me. I had been included in a lie that required my absence to exist. I realized then that love hadn't protected